Hello again, my children. This is Jesus, just hanging around, back with another message. The American right loves children, like a serial arsonist loves smoke alarms. Only when it's convenient, and never when it costs them a darn thing. They cry crocodile tears over a cluster of cells, clinging to the sanctity of life like it's a holy verse wrapped in an American flag. But let that fetus grow into a real breathing child, especially a brown one, a Muslim one, a starving one under rubble in Gaza. And suddenly, life isn't so sacred. That precious heartbeat becomes just collateral damage. A side note in a Pentagon press release. They scream bloody murder about abortion, chain themselves to Planned Parenthood fences, and sob into the arms of imaginary Jesus while voting to fund the bombs that reduce schools, hospitals, and playgrounds into ash heaps filled with dead children. And if you point that out, you're the problem. You're the anti-American. Spare me. These folks will wail that life begins at conception, or even before, if they're deep enough into a bottle of Jack Daniels and still riding high off last night's Hannity segment. They claim God personally hand-knits every soul at the moment of fertilization. But the minute that soul is born in Gaza or Yemen or anywhere outside a cozy white suburb in Ohio, that same child becomes a threat, a statistic, a nuisance to freedom. They plaster bumper stickers that say, "Every life matters," while voting to send $17.9 billion worth of death machines to a military force, mowing down children like weeds. Over 13,000 children have been killed in Gaza since October 2023. That's not tragedy. That's atrocity. And these same sanctimonious warriors call it self-defense. You want facts? Here we go. The U.S. has sent over $310 billion in military aid to Israel since 1948. In April 2025, the Senate, God bless those spineless wonders, voted 82-15 to keep the weapons flowing into a war zone. Meanwhile, UNICEF reports over 50,000 children in Gaza have been killed or maimed. Dead kids by the thousands, shredded by American-made missiles, and yet, not a single tear from the so-called pro-life brigade. You won't see Ted Cruz holding up pictures of mangled toddlers on the Senate floor. Nope, but he'll sure flash a sonogram like it's divine evidence. They worship the fetus and discard the child. That's not morality. That's birth-obsessed nationalist hypocrisy, wrapped in a flag and baptized in delusion. They chant, life is sacred, while babies die in powerless incubators because fuel trucks couldn't pass checkpoints their policies created. They scream, abortion is murder, while handing out medals to the military-industrial complex for precision bombing a refugee camp. What even is that? You can't hold up the Bible in one hand and sign a check for Lockheed Martin with the other. Either life is sacred, or it's a slogan. And judging by the charred corpses of children pulled from rubble in Rafah, we all know which one it really is. They chant life is sacred, while babies die in powerless incubators because fuel trucks couldn't get past checkpoints their policies helped enforce. They scream, abortion is murder, and then hand out medals to the military-industrial complex for precision bombing a refugee camp. What the actual fuck is that? You can't hold up the Bible in one hand and sign a check for Lockheed Martin with the other. Either life is sacred, or it's a slogan. And judging by the charred corpses of children pulled from rubble in Rafah, we all know which it is. They'll call you un-American for asking why a 4-year-old girl had her heart stopped by a Hellfire missile while she slept. They'll wave their "Don't Tread on Me" flags while crushing entire families beneath the boots of foreign policy. These are not defenders of life. These are high-functioning sociopaths with Bible verses in their Twitter bios and blood on their fucking hands. They'll tell you every sperm is sacred and every embryo is a miracle. But they don't give a shit about the children drawing tanks and drones instead of houses and dreams. And if that kid dies under a collapsed building, funded by American tax dollars, they'll sip bourbon and mutter something about Hamas, tunnels, or some other buzzword meant to soften the fact that they just cheered for genocide. It's not pro-life, it's pro-birth, it's pro-control, it's pro-death by proxy. It's a death cult in red hats, clutching pearls with one hand and clutching bomb detonators with the other. You want sanctity of life? Then start with the children choking on dust in hospitals with no power. Start with the fathers digging through rubble, screaming their kids' names into silence. Start with the fucking truth. Because there's no moral high ground when your side is covered in ash and broken bones. There is no goddamn universe where you can cry over a fetus on Tuesday and vote to bomb children on Wednesday. So the next time some politician sobs about the unborn, ask them where their prayer circle was when a 6-year-old bled out next to her dead mother in a UN shelter. Ask them what Jesus would do when shown footage of toddlers with limbs blown off by American-supplied missiles. Ask them what the fuck happened to "Thou shalt not kill." Because if your God can't hear the screams of children across the ocean, maybe he isn't holy. Maybe he's just your excuse. You don't get to wrap yourself in morality while cheering for slaughter. You don't get to quote scripture with one hand and light the fuse with the other. If you're pro-life, then be fucking pro-life. For every life. Not just the white ones. Not just the American ones. Not just the ones born into your church or your politics or your goddamn zip code. Anything else is cowardice. Anything else is a lie. And the blood, it's not symbolic. It's not poetic. It's fucking literal. You paid for the bombs. You endorsed the policy. You watched the footage. Or ignored it. And slept just fine. So the next time you whisper, "Life is sacred," look in the mirror and see if you can say it without choking on the ashes of your own hypocrisy.